And now it's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today. Kim Anderson is a true business dynamo and serial entrepreneur. She's been a successful retailer and business leader for more than 35 years, starting in the management and buying departments of George Marsh and Macy's. She is former owner of the home store Teapots and Tassels Co., where she was awarded Entrepreneur of the Year in 1991 by the SBA and Citizen of the Year in 2005. In 2009, she co-founded with her 15-year-old daughter, Ava Anderson Non-Toxic, the nation's safest full line of personal care and home cleaning products sold via direct sales. Their business educated millions of American families on the dangers of harmful chemicals and conventional products for humans and the environment. With the support of 18,000 independent representatives, in 6 years they reached $60 million run rate, were honored by Inc. magazine, Fortune, and Entrepreneur, and sold in 2016. As the driving force behind Plant City, Kim has pioneered the world's first plant-based food hall and marketplace right in the heart of Providence. If you haven't had the pleasure of visiting yet, I strongly suggest you do, because you're in for a real treat, and I can attest that that is 100% a true statement. With an array of dining options, including Mexican, sushi, Italian, and burgers, plus a bakery, coffee shop, and a sprawling community space for educational programs and cooking classes, Plant City is a haven for food lovers and health enthusiasts alike. With her family, she is an impact investor against climate crisis, specifically with an interest in alternative proteins. Kim has been honored as Entrepreneur of the Year by the Small Business Association and Citizen of the Year by the Rhode Island Chamber of Commerce. She was recently chosen to be the 5th Rhode Islander to be entered into Rhode Island Entrepreneur Hall of Fame by the Met School. Kim is a board member of Lincoln School, Social Enterprise Greenhouse, Collis Foundation, and EverHope Foundation, a judge for Rhode Island Business Competition, and mentors many socially responsible entrepreneurs. BFFs, please join me in welcoming our special guest speaker, Kim Anderson.
Well, thank you for that. Now I have nothing else to say. So I've been a serial entrepreneur my whole life, and honestly, it's an honor to be filled with a room of badass women, entrepreneurs, and leaders. This is always my favorite thing to do is share with other women that are in the pursuit of excellence in their businesses. So with my daughter's business, we started when she was 15, and she was really upset about the chemicals. We didn't do it to raise money because thankfully we were financially secure. What we wanted to do is offer this young girl an opportunity to share her message with as many people as possible by doing it by sharing a message through product. And towards the end, after 6 years, we were educating more than 250,000 families per month about the chemicals that they were putting on their babies, in their airspace, down their drains. And a lot of those women were very upset about what they were finding, the diseases that these chemicals were linked to, and actually bringing the products back to the stores that they bought them from and said, I'm sorry, these chemicals are linked to these diseases, and I will no longer put them on my family, and I will no longer be a customer until you change your formulations. So now if I go into a CVS or a Target and I see truly safer products, I know that we moved the needle on that from the ground up. So that was very, very exciting and very meaningful work, which is what I love to talk about, is social entrepreneurship. So when you have a business where baked into the DNA of who you are and why you exist is to solve a problem, that to me is the way all entrepreneurship is going to need to be going forward. I don't think 15 to 20 years from now, the young women at this table and their peers are going to be buying from, supporting, working for, or staying with companies that are just taking the Earth's resources to make another widget. It's time to really look at all business as a way to change the world in some positive way. Whether it's the Kind Mars that's giving 1 for 1, or Tom's Shoes is giving 1 for 1, or other vendors that are planting trees for everyone they sell. I mentor a young girl in Providence who has a really successful coffee company because she used to work for me. And I said, Audrey, you're going to have a great coffee company, but you're going to be 28 in 6 years, you're going to be super successful, who cares? What's going to get you up out of bed in the morning to be really excited about the work that you're doing? So she went back and retooled, and now they have a very, very strong TikTok, millions of views on TikTok, and it's usually around social impact in some way or another. So when we sold our daughter's business, she was a senior at Babson, 6 years in, she said, I really don't know if I want to do this for the rest of my life. We rebranded it and sold it. It's still being made in Rhode Island. And we sat back and said, as a family, we have this skill set. Let's figure out what else we can do, and it will come to us. Because when you're an entrepreneur, you have the skill set, and you will see a problem one day, and you'll be like, I know I can solve that or move the needle on that problem through business. So it was about 6 months later, which is not a long time, our son graduated from Dartmouth with an environmental studies degree and came home and said to us, if you have a family of means, you have an obligation to invest in climate crisis. Great, I'm in. How do we do that? And I spent the next year with him going around to every conference, every symposium, every panel that we could find on how to mostly prevent greenhouse gases, mostly carbon and methane, or how to remove them from the atmosphere. And the reason that this is so important is if you take a car and drive here 13 miles, I mean, how far is that? Most of you probably live within 13 miles, is it 10 minutes? That is the end of the atmosphere. It's called a thin blue line around the planet, and that is what protects life on this planet, and we've used it as our garbage dump. So when he said that, we started investing in renewable energies, carbon sequestration, battery storage, anything that we could do that could move the needle. And about a year in, he was getting his master's at Babson, and he got very sick, and he had chronic Lyme, and ended up with a pit line in his chest, a very, very serious amount of antibiotics. He said, I'm not going to waste this year on the couch. I'm going to research what I need to be eating to prevent these antibiotics from destroying my gut. And he came away with a whole food, plant-based diet. And then he matched that with his environmental studies degree and thought, well, gee, nobody ever talked to me about the devastation of the planet from animal agriculture. When he put the two together, he went plant-based. And I prefer to call it plant-based over vegan because vegan has a pretty negative connotation. If you go and tell your friend that you're going vegan, you're going to get a lot of pushback. If you tell your friend that you're eating more plant-based, there's not that much pushback. It's a big difference. So he said to us for Christmas that year, I don't want any presents, I don't want any gifts, I just want you to watch these movies, and there's a long list, and give me the time to talk about them. And so it only took two, as people who were in their 50s who were concerned about their health and environmentalists. We watched Forks Over Knives, which is about the health side of the plant-based diet, and then we watched Cowspiracy, which is on the environmental side. And if you told me that day I would have been a vegetarian, I would have said you were out of your mind. And yet the next morning, we called it back, we're like, all right, we're plant-based, what do you eat for breakfast? And I have not knowingly eaten an animal product since then. And that was a decade ago, that was 10 years. Our son was very worried about environmentalism when the last administration came in, and he was right, and so he was very depressed. And I wanted to show him that if I could get people to go plant-based, I could reduce the impact on the environment, including the contribution of global greenhouse gases. So I started doing movie night at my house every other week, and I made 100 to 200 people. You were a toast if you were on my list. You were going to see these movies. Because for me, it was the movies that made a difference. And I moved about, over the course of a year, 800 people from mostly animal eating to mostly plant-based eating, and some all in. And I was able to show my son the carbon reduction going in the atmosphere of eating that way. And that made him feel better, but I wanted to do more. And I would check in with people and say, how are you doing? How's it going? And they would say, you know, Kim, I could do this at home, but I can't do it when I go out. And I thought, we're closed from here. Doesn't that suck? That you have these values that you want to live your life by, and you can't eat out. And that's really where the genesis for the idea of Plant City came into my mind. I had no idea how it was going to go. You know, we start businesses and it's a crapshoot. You could do a business plan, but it's only as useful as the paper it's printed on. And then the day you open, it's done, right? The most important thing we do is we do a P&L every week to make sure that things are going well. Once a week, 1 hour on Fridays. And here's the reason why what I did was really important. So the whole food plant-based diet is the only diet known to prevent 11 of the 15 things that kill Americans, and the other 3 are murder, suicide, and accident. It's the only diet known to reverse the 2 killers of Americans, type 2 diabetes and cardiac disease. And this guy, Dr. Michael Greger, has a website called, an Instagram website called nutritionfacts.org, and he has 200 scientists and researchers that read every single English language peer-reviewed, double-blind human study printed in a journal of reputation. And he puts the information of the science of nutrition on his site. So you can go there and look up anything, olive oil, B12, vitamin D, and it will tell you the studies, the science, you pay for them, where they were done, under what conditions. You can go as deep as you want. If you're in the medical field, you can find out everything about the studies that you want to look at. So for health and healthcare costs, that's one reason to go plant-based. The next is environment and climate. We talked about that. The third is social justice. So my friend here went to BU for law, correct? The people that do the work of slaughtering 80 billion land animals a year do not go to BU and raise their hand and say, hey, I want to work in a slaughterhouse. These are in the deep recesses of the South, and it's a minority in an immigrant population, and they are mentally and physically ill, as are their families and their communities. These effluent fields are actually killing people. So even though I came to it for health and climate, but if I had one burger, would it change my health? Probably not. Would it change the world? Probably not. But for social justice reasons, and this is me personally, I have no judgment. I was 52 before I figured all this out. But for me, it's the social justice. It's like, hell no, I'm never doing that again to another human being to have to process an animal for my entertainment. The next reason is animal ethics, but that's been around for a long time. It has not moved the needle, so I don't really talk about it. The last one is preventing the next pandemic. And I had lunch with Dr. Greger about 6 weeks into the pandemic, maybe 6 months, 6 months. And he said, you know, Kim, this was the dress rehearsal and we failed. It was only a 1% death rate. He said the next time it's going to be animals very tightly encased in one of these pig farms in the Carolinas, and it's going to jump again from human to animal, from animal to human, excuse me, and it's going to have a 30 to 40% death rate. And that was shocking because, you know, nobody delivers food to Whole Foods, so you can't go buy it, even with a mascot. Nobody delivers money to the banks because nobody's going out of their house to deliver anything. And that's when he started describing what would happen when that happened. So for me, it seems like the solution to a lot of our global issues, as well as it's a really bad math problem to put 1 pound of beef through, 35 pounds of feed through an animal to get 1 pound of beef. So if we diverted all that food, we could probably make a dent in global starvation as well. So to me, it's like that Swiss Army knife of solving most of the world's problems. And I just want to share that with as many people as I possibly can. I speak to about 3,000 people a year, and then I started a nonprofit called Global Movie Nights, where I want hosts all around the world to do what I did and open their home the first Monday of the month every month, to share a film with their friends and their family, just to get them the science and the information about whole food plant-based diet and the difference it can make in your life. There's a great movie out I was telling these guys about called The Game Changers. I would highly recommend it. It's about how the top athletes in the world in every single sport are eating whole food plant-based for recuperation, inflammation prevention, longevity of career, and performance. Several of the Patriot players come often to Providence. The whole teams, the Tennessee Titans visit us. They're featured in that movie. Their defensive line is fully plant-based. And we're talking about the no-neck guys, the very big boys. They put down more food than I've ever seen. And then it seems like celebrities that have access to information also come often. Viola Davis has been there for the last 4 days in a row. Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones come often because their son is or their daughter, she's a Brown. So all these folks that have access to information seek us out. And I just feel bad that the average folks of us don't have this information to make this decision. And I'm happy to answer any question. Business, social impact, impact investing. We do a lot with plant-based foods, like Impossible Burger, Beyond Meat, when those first came out about a decade ago. But the biggest hope that I have is called cultured meat. Has anybody in the room heard of cultured meat? Okay, great. So in effect, in a kindergarten explanation, we could take a thumbnail this size and take the cells and brew them in vats like beer and create billions of pounds from this initial contribution. And this is actually happening now. When we first started investing in it, a meatball was $300,000, now it's under $300,000. And there were only 3 companies publicly talking about this work, and now there's hundreds all over the world. We're invested in about 8 of those companies. It's going to be a bit more before we get there. But when it gets to price parity, who is McDonald's going to order from? The one that doesn't have the chance of E. coli disease, right? We were talking about risk management. Number one thing you have to do as a business owner, risk management. For them, it gets rid of most of their problems. No E. coli, no mad cow disease, no young people picketing their door for being environmental devastators, right? It makes a lot of things go away. And it is bioidentical, so it doesn't matter. We cannot work our way out of this problem doing what we're doing. It's been calculated that if the rising Chinese middle class decided tomorrow to eat the 9 ounces of animal protein per day that we eat, that we would need 3.5 planets to do that. We don't have enough land to graze enough animals and devastate enough environment to do that. And there is a rising middle class, not only in China, but also in India. So I'm hoping that that continues to work out and that we'll have solutions very soon because we're actually just burning the rainforest for palm oil, which is in 90% of the products in your kitchen cupboard and cosmetic counters. So when you walk into the door of a Plant City, we are plant-based, palm oil-free, certified kosher, compostable, and wind-powered, the only restaurant in the world that we know that's doing that. And we are the largest plant-based restaurant in the world. We have 150 employees in Providence. And I made 2 smaller ones during COVID. One was a drive-through to see if we could help make the mothership survive while we were all trying, like how many times did we pivot like every single day during COVID, right? So we did a lot of pivoting, including opening 2 other locations to help keep the #1 survive. And so I'm looking at franchising the smaller ones, and the bigger one I've signed a contract with a group that sends American brands to Asia. They've brought Starbucks, Sweet Green, Shake Shack, Olive, Cheesecake Factory to China, and they want to bring Plant City to China. As a old, long-in-the-tooth entrepreneur, I don't get too excited or too down. I try to keep it in a narrow range. Like a little bit up, a little bit down, but if we get to the end and there's something there, then I'll get really super excited. But that's an important piece of advice from a 62-year-old woman who's been there many times. Try to conserve your energy. You don't get too high or too low. So kind of that's where that situation is. We invest, we have an impact investment fund, we invest in a lot of cool things, and as scary as the world is right now, there is a lot going on. The first carpet sequestration in the world we're invested in. They've made 17 investments. Who would have thought 2 years ago there would be 17 investments to make in carbon sequestration? So that's very encouraging. And then we invest in things like, there's a company called Quaise, Q-U-A-I-S-E, out of MIT. It's an MIT think tank company. About 3 years old, my husband's on the board because he's an engineer, and they don't usually get investors that are engineers. And we can only drill 500 or 600 feet before the drill bits implode for geothermal wells, and geothermal wells, if we can get to superheated steam, are the easiest way to solve this problem because nuclear and fission and all of that's 20 years off and billions of dollars. But for millions, you can build 10 holes around an existing coal plant. Hook it up to the existing infrastructure, so not have to build anything else and take down the coal. And this is game changing, right? That's the kind of stuff that my family is involved in and investing in and serving strategically to support. And there's a lot of really interesting things. I'm headed from Bryant, where I'm on the board, and meeting a really cool guy. His name is Ira Magaziner. Some of you may remember him. He created the health plan and tried to pass it under the Clinton administration. It did not go, but during Obama's administration it did. He's now head of the climate efforts and foundation from the Clinton Foundation. And we also invested in something that's 3 kids from UPenn, the first year, came together to create a company. One of them is a Wheeler grad in Providence. This is how I found them. And they do 20-foot shipping containers, and in one end goes our compost, or anybody's compost, and food scraps and compostable packaging. And then the process is creates methane, but that methane energizes the process, and then out the end comes high-test organic fertilizer. And it's a closed-loop system, no escape of the methane. And this is a big deal because it's local. I have one in one of my restaurants in Warwick where I have the room, and we cart everything there. And it's very, very inexpensive. It's like $1,000 a month, which is less than what I used to pay to go take it 30 miles to the landfill, which is the highest point in Rhode Island. That's our mountain. I don't know if you know Massachusetts in 2025, which is just around the corner, I heard, will not allow food scraps in the dumps, in the landfills anymore. So you guys have a problem right on your heels. And composting is really the only answer. And Ira sees the brilliance in this company, and he and I want to bring this all over the world through the Clinton Foundation. So it gives me great joy at this stage in our life to be doing game-changing things that are really going to make a difference. I had the first Tesla in Rhode Island 13 years ago because I just wanted to get asses in seats so that people could try it and understand range anxiety and service and the sales function and anything else that they had questions about. Sold a lot of cars. It wasn't to do that. It was really just to show people that we need this. We really need to be having electric cars and electrification, and that went well. So currently, there's other industries that need to be electrified that are not, that are very, very damaging to the planet, and one is motor yachting, boating. So my husband and I built the world's most advanced electric solar yacht in Poland. It's now in the United States, and we send it down to the Caribbean in the winter to let people charter it and see that we can go infinitely with the sun on a good-sized boat. So just try to push the needle wherever we can to get things moving in the right direction just by doing it and showing and sharing. There's one other thing that I wanted to share, but maybe it'll come to me. That's what happens when you're over 60. I know there's a few people in this room that understand. I'm happy to answer any questions, but the first thing I want to do is give you my phone number. Because I'm hoping that some of you will go home with your families and watch some of these movies. Because if you watch it by yourself, you're going to understand it, and then you're going to be the food nag in the house. So watch it with the people that you live with. The first one was called Forks Over Knives. The second was called The Game Changers. The third one was called Cowspiracy. And my phone number is 401-580-1916. And at this stage in my career, my greatest joy comes from helping other people, doing things that are important in a social enterprise way or in a climate reduction way. And I'm happy to help. Text me anytime. If you watch these movies and text me, you're like, WTF. I will invite you to come down to Plant City as my guest and bring a family, bring in class, whatever. Dinner's on me, lunch is on me, whenever you can get there. I really just want people to see that if plant-based food can be delicious and available and fun, and then why not? But you have to have the facts first. I'm not in the business of selling this to anybody. I'm in the business of sharing so that they can see it and come to me and say, okay, what do I do about this? What do I do about this? What do I do about this? And I'm available to answer any questions and give you the direction I can. Yes?
What was the hardest meat transition when you went to this?
I didn't find anything hard. I used to be a big, huge fan of tenderloin with a sour cream sauce on it. It was easy to make. It was a Thanksgiving holiday kind of thing that I would do. I don't really miss it because I think once you have the understanding and you start making things that are really delicious, it just becomes like, this is delicious. It's about deliciousness, right? It is a teeny bit harder than throwing a piece of meat on a plate and serving it with a salad because there's some prep work involved. But great question. This is a copy of a book called Practically Vegan with 100 recipes in it. So that's for me. Yeah, well, yes.
So I was really skeptical when I was invited to go to Plant City. My daughter lives in Providence, and I called her and oh, let's go here for lunch. And I'm like, carnivore, as most people know about and the food was unbelievable. The whole experience was just like, oh, I had no idea that we could make this kind of, like I said, vegan, we're like, ugh. But the food, everything was fantastic.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Most people come, about 70% of our guests are not plant-based. They are dragged by somebody else to go, which you have just affirmed. The best case was that I have these double doors to protect from the wind, and this guy, his wife was literally dragging me. And he looks at me as if to say, dear God, help me. And I said, it's okay, I need to talk him off the ledge really fast. Do you want pasta? Do you want pizza? Do you want burgers? Like, I can feed you. And then I proceeded to deluge him with my favorites for free on me because I wanted to see. And he comes looking for me at the end and he goes, oh my God, my wife's been nagging me to eat this way, and I was fighting it because I thought I'd have to eat lettuce and tofu for the rest of it. And he just all of a sudden saw that it was so much bigger than him. Now I knew nothing. I'd never even worked in a restaurant before I opened Plant City. So I partnered with a friend of mine who is one of the top plant-based chefs in the world out of LA. He's got 69 restaurants. And I said, I want to take your 5 favorites, my 5 favorites of yours in New York City, and put them under one roof to create the world's first plant-based food hall. So think smaller plant-based eataly. And it is really a fun experience. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Because if I can get somebody there once, they're coming back, especially if they live locally. The food is that good. And I don't have anything to do with it, so I can say that. Yes?
Hey, I was just wondering, do you have plans to come to Boston?
No. And I say that very quickly because I looked when we first opened and we had super success. And I mean massive success. The first 72 hours we served 13,000 guests. And it almost all broke. Pulled it all together. We went from 99 employees to 168 in that first week. And started looking around Boston. It's a really hard market. You know, you can't do downtown because it's empty. The rents back there are really high. like 4 times higher than what I have in Providence. I have a lot of people that come to us from Worcester, a lot, because there's probably nothing there apparently. In plant-based foods. So, yeah, if you want to come down to Providence someday for the day, there's a lot of fun things you can do. A lot of people will come for the weekend from all over the place and do a weekend and eat Friday night dinner, come for Saturday breakfast, go do the day, come back for a different restaurant on Saturday night, have Sunday breakfast and then drive home. And yeah, we've had people fly to us, and you know, the first day we opened, this guy showed up and stayed a week from like Salt Lake City, and he kissed the ground when he walked in the door, and he goes, "You don't understand. I've been plant-based for 40 years, and I just never saw it. I thought I would see the day." So I just got to get people there who are not plant-based, because the food is good. Yeah.
Hi, yes, I'm Nora, and I went to Plant City. So like I told you, I was with my boyfriend in Providence a couple months ago, and so we went there, and the next day I dragged him. And my question is, how do you keep your offerings fresh and
Yeah.
like new?
So we haven't done a great job of that. We started with those great menus, and then my executive chef was from New York, from a 2 Michelin star restaurant, very successful, knew nothing about plant-based. Learned, and then started doing Monday and Wednesday specials. And like some people would say, I'm never coming back if you don't put that special on their regular menu. So it started to grow over time. And it's pretty full now. We take off some things that don't move as well. But what we're doing is we're moving all of the restaurants down to the first floor, so you can have anything you want, mixed groups. Somebody was saying to me they didn't like to do it that way. And then the second floor we're turning into a seasonal, elevated, finer dining, chef-inspired, open kitchen, New American Global, which basically, according to what Chef tells me, is he can put anything on the menu from anywhere and get away with it. So we're very excited about that. We're updating the ambiance as well, like big, huge, round, green velvet banquettes and things like that. So it'll be fun, and that menu will change seasonally because we realized that we were losing customers that used to come all the time because it was the same thing, right? And what I try to tell people is we have 4 menus. We have 280 things on the menu. If you've been once or twice, you have not eaten 280 things on the menu. I could feed you every day for half a year and not have the same thing. But not everybody just wanted to do that. Great question, thank you. Yes?
So you mentioned franchising. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Mm-hmm. So the 2 smaller restaurants that I have slated right around 1.5 to 1.8 million. The average McDonald's is 2.1, Wendy's is 1.9. So we're close to being right there already. And so I've already hired a team and have the work done of, like franchising is not new. This is not recreating the wheels. It's plug and play. There's all the paperwork. You fill it out. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and you're done. And I'm just waiting until they get, the bumps worked out, until everything really gets just right. Because one's only 6 months old, one's 3 years old. And once I get the bumps right, if my husband doesn't divorce me, I will do a franchise. But I'll hire a whole team that knows what they're doing to run that. I have had many, many people over the years ask us, please come to Texas, please come to Boston, please. And so when I put the word out, I'm sure that we'll get a lot of people that would want to have a Plant City in their community.
And it's something we can drive up.
The one in I love reuse, recycle. So our building in Providence was formerly a steakhouse and a strip club. Our building in Laurel was formerly a 1970s Burger King, and it was ugly. And then the one in Barrington was a 60-year-old strip mall with these big boulders that looks like Flintstone's house in the cartoon, like glow. And so I redid the whole building. And like, people are coming just because they're like, thank you. We had to look at this eyesore, and my friend in the real estate business, you have an eyesore in the center of town. The real estates love you when you make it look pretty again. So, yeah. Thank you. Good question. Yes?
I was going to just ask you about, entrepreneurship. If there are women in this room who are thinking about making the leap into entrepreneurship, maybe they've been in a corporate career, what would you say to them?
It's interesting. Women tend to struggle more with entrepreneurship than men. And for that reason, actually, my daughter, when she graduated from Babson, she and I donated the first Women's Entrepreneurial Accelerator to U.S. College at Babson. Women will get their mother's advice, their aunt's advice, the mailman's advice, and then go like that, and the wind isn't right, and you won't do it. You need to get great advice, and not from your family. You need to find people that can be supporters of yours, that have depth in that field, and really give you the honest answer. Because if your aunt loves your cupcakes, you go into the cupcake business, your aunt may be the only one that liked them, right? So you really have to get honest evaluation and support from people within the industry as kind of your team, and then be willing to take the bad news as well as the good news. But then the most important thing I found in my business is risk management, right? Just button up all the holes. You guys are in Massachusetts. How many people here know Princess House Crystal? Anybody? So that was my father-in-law's business. He created that in 1957, 61, and sold it in 1978 to Colby. But he used to love to give advice in like typical swamp Yankee advice. Very few words, very big meaning. And he would say, find the hole in the bottom of the swimming pool where all the rats are going to get. All right. Stop them up, and you know what your risk is when you go into it. And don't be afraid of that risk, but button it up as tight as you can. And I didn't do that in my daughter's business, and we paid for it. But I do it at Plant City. My biggest risk is that we hurt somebody with allergies. Peanut allergies are very severe. 30% of our guests are gluten-free or an allergy to something. So we have very, very strict allergy protocol. We've had 1 in 5 years person who ended up in hospital because they got peanuts when it was actually their fault, but regardless, we served it to them. They hadn't shared with the server properly, and we have an amazing protocol. If somebody says allergy, they back off, the manager comes over, they take the order, they usher it to the kitchen directly, not through the handhelds. They put like a flag in it so that it comes to your table, and you know that it's, like, this is a very serious, but that's the thing that keeps me up at night, that I hurt somebody, right? In any food industry, people need to be worried about that. So how do you button it up? Training, training, training. Every single day we train on allergy protocol. But in any business, you'll know what your risks are, button them up, and if you can't, see if you can go around. And then the second thing I would say, make yourself a social enterprise. So people have a reason for buying from you. I feel good about spending their money with you. Even in service industries, you can do it. There's ways you could say 20% of this goes to X Foundation. Okay, so that people feel good about supporting you or working with you or giving you the money. Those are some of my kind of favorites. And then be prepared to run fast and scale fast. Like, try to pick a business that you can scale unless you're happy with 1 unit or you're happy with a small business, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you want to, the thing that I learned at SEG, Social Enterprise Greenhouse in Providence, which is an ecosystem, a network, and accelerator for socially responsible businesses. We put 3,500 businesses through the accelerator in a dozen years and created 7,000 jobs in Rhode Island in socially responsible space. You know, just be prepared to handle the growth, but then to maximize it, take advantage of it. A lot of women tend to think small. Think big. Yes?
You mentioned to not expend too much of your energy on the highs and the lows. What do you find is the most helpful to keep your energy?
You know, I do the things that we all do for self-care, right? I hit the gym 5 times a week, I have a trainer, treadmill. I find that the dopamine and the endorphins from that really help me. So it may be different for other people, but you know, like maybe a massage, I go to a personal a PT for some arm and back issues. So just taking care of ourselves first so that we have that foundation to then handle the other stuff from, because if you're not doing well or feeling well mentally and physically, you don't even have the energy to do all the things that you need to do. Owning your own business is serious stuff. You have to be an expert in a lot of things, or be able to afford experts around you, and that's hard in the beginning. But sometimes you can find quarter share, half share, people who want a part-time job, a few hours a week to help you as you build. But it's definitely self-care, mentally and physically. Gotta be strong. This is not for sissies. Right? It's like hand-to-hand combat in some ways. And almost every day I start with the things I want to do. I haven't hit my list today. Right? Other things pop up, and when you have 200 and some odd employees, there's always an HR issue. I've never fired anybody, I'm a wuss on it, so I put layers between me and the folks that need to be fired. That's my downfall, but I have people around me who do it well, not firing, but handle HR. So know what you can do. Know what you can't, make sure you get help. Accounting is huge. My father-in-law would also say, have the bean counter and know where all the beans are, all the time. Sure.
I remember when Frances Moore LaHaye was beating the drum on, plant-based diet. Do you think it's the combination of our environmental crisis and global warming that's giving it traction now?
Yeah, now that the science has shown that this is the best diet for human health and the best diet for the planet, more people are starting to pay attention. The movies have been huge. The first one that I told you about, Forks Over Knives, is like 12 years old, but that was a big, big deal for a lot of people.
And what was the second name again?
The Game Changers. So the Game Changers is about athletic performance and the top athletes in the world and why they eat plant-based. Because of access to information, it does really affect their careers. And so like Novak Djokovic, Venus and Serena Williams, arguably 3 of the best tennis players in the world, doing 5.5 hours matches on Wimbledon in 90-degree heat, they're all plant-based, right? The largest animals in the world, the gorillas, the elephants, the rhinos, they all eat plants. That's one big muscle. Giraffes, they all eat plants, right? There's more protein per ounce of broccoli than there is in steak. If you go look up online, sources of protein, because people are always like, they're not worried about it when they're eating that Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket, but all of a sudden when I talk about plant-based, they want to know where their protein's coming from. Almost all vegetables have protein, not as much fruits. And if you just kind of keep track of it for a while on your micros, you'll see that you're getting them already. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Kim. I want to really thank you for your eco-leadership. I was sort of connected to you a few years ago. I never made it down to your movie night, but speaking of sort of advice from family and whatnot, I did come from a family that went to college, and I was like the middle child, kind of voted on the college island, and I chose environmental studies, and I had people in my family were like apologize, like what are you doing? Like you're gonna be hungry, like you're not gonna make it. This is not a thing. So I really appreciate just how kind of deep you've dug and how far you've reached. Like you've really made it accessible, and the benefits are so clear. I feel like I was always that. Oh, she's studying environmental studies. She's like that.
That's one step away from basket making, right?
Yeah. So I've just heard it from so many angles. I myself do run a social impact organization. We serve social impact companies, help them with internship programs. But I think my question is probably around, I'll just kind of focus it on, young people are already so inclined to sort of they're already so open-minded, and I think a lot of times, I'm far out from the college age, but I serve a lot of college age young people, and I feel like, they go home over Thanksgiving, and they're mad at their parents for not recycling, and then there's contention, and the young people, they want to make a difference. Mm-hmm. And this is a really, I think, tangible way to make a difference. No matter what administration and whatnot, not to go there, but, how do you sort of see the work you've done overlapping with the work done at college campuses and engaging
a
young
lot.
people?
I speak a lot at college campuses. I'm at Brown 8 times a semester, and it's not the academics that are inviting me, it's the students. Yep, the Impact Club, the Women in Business Club, this social entrepreneurship club, a group called, I forget the name, but they actually create social enterprises. There's one group of women that does work in the community and social enterprise, and I mentor them as well. So the kids want a job that makes a difference.
Exactly.
And they're all asking me, what jobs can I get? So I've plugged them in with 3 or 4 organizations. I don't remember them all offhand. But the one that I happen to love in my space is Good Food Institute. And they're all around the world, and they're doing the research and funding for plant-based alternative proteins. In the alternative protein space, on the vegetable side, but also on the cellular side. And so they're looking for scientists, deep scientific knowledge. We've got 2 guys on Brown that are going for their PhDs that are on grants from Good Food Institute. So GFI is a really interesting organization, and they have hundreds of people around the world now working with them. And our philanthropy arm does pay for some of that work.
That's great. And I was, my partner was also a chamber member, and you guys know Ramon. He's originally from Mexico, and we've been to Plant City over the last 2 years, and he vouches for the Mexican side of things. But he's not me.
My executive chef is from Ecuador, so I know it's
okay.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you for the work that you're doing at Social Enterprise, by the way. If you text me, I will try to get you the names of the other groups that are doing hiring or referring young people to places that are hiring in that space. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Yeah.
You talked about how you have kind of more prep that goes into your dinners, but what would be your favorite easy weeknight dinner?
I love a good minestrone, heavy on the beans. That's where the protein is coming from mostly. I love anything that's curry. curries are easy, loaded with beans and seeds and nuts and things like that. You know, some of the harder things that I love would be a lasagna, but they can last for a long time. You make 2, you freeze 1. Batch mealing is really helpful. I have to be completely transparent and honest. I have somebody who helps me with cooking at home. So I don't usually do the cooking. Like if I'm working a full day, I don't want to get home at 5 o'clock and have to feed my husband and I a healthy, delicious meal and be scavenging. But there's a wonderful book out there by Rip Esselstyn. He's in the movie The Game Changers. He's the son of Dr. S.E. Esselstyn, who took the first picture of a heart with a gnarly scrawl on it. Then 2 years later, it was a straight superhighway who proved that we can reverse cardiac disease with a whole food, plant-based, low salt, oil, sugar diet, scientifically shown. And the whole family does amazing work. The dad has come to Plant City to speak. I'm on a podcast with Rhett, and he said it's his most popular podcast other than his father's. And I'm sorry, ask me the question again?
I was just asking about your favorite.
Yeah. So Rip has a book. It's a 7-day startup, the Firehouse something, because he's a fireman and a triathlete. And it really just segments out. And one of the things that he talks about are bowls. So first the fridge bowls, right? He'll something from fruit, something from vegetable, something from a grain, something from a lettuce, like kale, or, right? And I hated kale, but we have a kale salad at our place that's amazing. And then another protein, either like a tofu or beans, and then you put that all together and with a dressing, and you've got different things every night. Sometimes you can do it from leftovers, compress the fridge, or you can, set out to have the things that you want in your favorite bowls. But roasted sweet potatoes in a bowl with quinoa, a lot like that salad that we had, quinoa and sweet potato and beets and garbanzo beans, and then throw over some nuts and seeds. You can get to 30, 40 grams for a woman protein very easily. So yeah, that's good enough to the everyone. Yeah. All right, well, yes.
So with your vision going forward and over the years you've built this up, how do you protect yourself with, like the big food industry copycatting it, or
I don't care.
down the line of done products where?
I really don't care, and I'll tell you why. I never did this for personal gain. I did this to share the message. So in my world, if more people are doing it, bring it on. I know that I could survive because I do well at what I do. I put our head down, we don't worry about anybody else, and we make our experience great, people will come back. But I hope every restaurant in the state goes plant-based, and everybody puts me out of business.
Getting into the food industry,
No.
making products for it.
No, we have a lot of products that people have asked for. It's a very different business. Manufacturing, labeling is very different. That would take a full court press and a lot of money. We have supported other brands that have done that work, and it's very hard because if you're a private label manufacturer and you're a small business, they will pop you off the line to some other bigger company in a minute, and now you can't fulfill your orders. The second thing is they'll steal your clients. I found that out when I was a cosmetic buyer, and I also found it out when I was a buyer for our daughter's business, and also other businesses. Yeah, people will steal your stuff in a heartbeat. I don't need it even in that business. But great question. Yeah. Yes.
One last one, sorry ladies, one last one.
Yes.
So my question is, you said, so she was talking about like plant-based, are there any brands like that you support that are plant-based? Like that? If you were to go to the
Absolutely.
grocery
I
store,
love
that you would
Oatly.
go to?
I love Oatly shelf-stable milks. It's, actually, Elmhurst is better. Elmhurst shelf-stable milks. And we keep 6 in the pantry, crack one, we use it a week later. We don't open another one until we need it, so there's very little waste. And it's a wonderful story. It was a 3-generation dairy in upstate New York. And one day this guy in his 60s just woke up and decided, I'm not going to milk cows, I'm going to milk nuts. And here's why this is really important, guys. Milk is meant to grow 450-pound cows quickly from mother's milk. And there's something in there called casomorphine, which actually keeps the calf coming back to the mom. It is a morphine derivative. So that is why you're addicted to cheese, because they take the dairy and multiply it, squish it, multiply it. So it's like 10 times worse. Cheese is 10 times worse than dairy milk, right? But all of them are highly inflammatory, and inflammation leads to disease. So if you do nothing else, just get rid of dairy. There's so many great opportunities to have. Oat milk is the best, as far as I'm concerned. Almond milk takes too much water. In California, there will be wars over water. Let's not go there. But oat milk is really great. And that dairy, by the way, is super, super successful nationally. Elmhurst is no longer in a dirty business, but making really, really good money doing the right thing.
ladies, I want to wish you all the best of the holidays, a Happy New Year. And once again, Kim Anderson, thank you for being so amazing and doing what you're doing. We really appreciate it. Thank you.